How you doing today? This is Jarad Held with Paws Saving Paws. Today we're so fortunate. We're here with Susan Young from Cobb County Animal Services. She has some fantastic stories to share. Their programs that they have at their facility are much further advanced than most of the people I've spoken to. So I'm really excited for everyone to be able to hear the programs they have and also maybe be able to adopt that to their programs and learn more about how they did that. So, Susan, let me ask you, talk to us a little bit about your journey that got you to the place that you're in now at the rescue.
I've been a dog lover my entire life. Had a Cocker Spaniel, at least one, since I was 6 years old, and moved to Georgia. We have five dogs of our own. I had three at the time, but my daughter was walking dogs, volunteering at Cobb County, and she talked me into doing it with her. It'll be fun,
Okay.
Mom, she said. So I did, and after a little while, a job opened up there in the as a volunteer coordinator, and I applied for it, got the job, and enjoy enjoy what I'm doing so much. Helping volunteers, having people learning how to handle the dogs, take care of them, and just being there with the dogs on a daily basis is very precious to me.
Yep. And when we were speaking earlier, you had said that when I believe when you started, there was 30 volunteers and you were able to get the volunteer total up to 160. Could you talk to us a little bit about that process so that way other shelters and rescues can maybe have some information to possibly follow the same road?
One thing that we do is we have a Cobb County Animal Services website, and every so often we'll put out an advertisement. Uh, on the homepage of our webpage, we have a place there that people can see that they can volunteer. And the main thing is to get people right away. Don't
Right.
sit on their applications. Don't, immediately when they start asking, because they'll find something else to do if you give
Quickly.
them time. So I immediately reach out to people, get them to fill out the applications. Ours is a little bit of a complicated process because they have to do background checks as well. And so it takes a little bit of time, but I usually can get somebody that's really determined in within a couple of weeks. And once you get them in, if that's their cup of tea, they will be amazing volunteers and just keep working for us. And then the volunteers, I give them my business cards. They hand them out to friends and word of mouth. Also
For
at our
more
adoption event.
volunteers?
Mhm. And our,
Great.
our adoption events, I also put out my cards and try to get as many people as I can interested.
That's fantastic. And would you say that the ability to grow from 30 to 160 volunteers is part of the reason you're able to have the exceptional programs you have that are much more advanced than most of the shelters or rescues that I've spoken to in the past?
I think that's a lot of it. I think the volunteers are a driving force at our shelter. Um, I have about 90 to 100 that are every month uh, contributing members, and they contribute about 1,000. I think last month was 1,100 hours
Wow.
every month that they put in, and they are cleaning kennels, they're walking dogs, they're spending time with them, and it's good for the dogs, it's good for the shelter, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. Would you mind sharing with us some of the programs that you have at your facility so that way uh, the other facilities that will be able to see this can follow in your tracks? Because like I was saying to you earlier, when you were sharing with me, you're much more advanced and have much more rehabilitation for the dogs than a lot of places that I've spoken to. If you want to start, we can start with the training and then go into the heartworm and the leash walk.
All of the volunteers are helping to train the dogs. They teach the dogs to sit, they practice at every door that we go through. The object of that is to get the dogs so that they will sit in their kennels and not jump around and look crazy. So if you
Right.
can get a dog to sit in a kennel, that's a win for everybody. And also just the fact that you teach a dog to sit is a great selling point because if the dog can do something like that in the bonding room, they're a very more desirable animal. And then we just
Sure.
move down the line. We work on giving paw, we work on down, anything that we can uh, teach the dogs, we work with them.
Right. And do you find that it's a quick turnaround? And what I mean by that is the training for sit and things of that nature. Is it where in one training session, and I know every dog is different, but in like one training session, they could learn to sit, or does it take, maybe three, four for them to start getting the first couple of commands?
Some of them it takes a while, and we have a sheet we call the volunteer comment sheet that's attached to the kennels, and the volunteers write what they're doing. Like if they're working with them on sit, once it's mastered, we say no sit, working on give paw. And then so the next volunteer who comes along the next day knows what to do with the dogs so that
Okay.
everybody is on the same page and knows what commands we're working on.
Gotcha. And do you use verbiage or do you use hand signals or both?
We use both. We use verbiage. Sit, we do a motion with our hand.
Right.
Of course, off, we kind of is this type of a thing. We're teaching the dog to not jump on us. Uh, we use down and we use give paw. Now, when we're first learning the dog, we will ask it if it knows shake because some dogs know how to shake.
Mhm.
And what if that whatever the verbiage the dog knows is what we'll use, and we'll write it on the
Okay.
kennel card.
Nice.
So
That's
that
fantastic. I need to work much harder with my rescue Soleil. She likes to jump up, and not everyone loves that when they come over. And so that's something that I could do much better. And I always tell them though, I'm like, it's not her fault. It's my fault because when I get home and she jumps up on top of my leg to get hugs, I'll sit there and rub her belly in her back for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. So she just expects that's what it is and doesn't know what's wrong with the person who's only doing it for 10 seconds, you know?
exactly.
But yeah, but that's something I could do much, much better with Soleil. Let's move over to you were talking about the heartworm program that you have. And if I understood you correctly, it's for the dogs that are in the facility, but also for the public?
It's for the dogs that are in the facility that we're trying to adopt out. Um, and if a person wants to adopt a dog that has heartworms, if it's a financial deal breaker, we will let them foster the dog and they will bring it in for treatment. And then once it's done with its treatment, then they adopt the dog.
Okay. Gotcha. So that way they don't have the financial hardship in the beginning if they can't afford it, but they still can foster and build that relationship and that love with the dog. And as soon as everything is cleared up medically, everything's good to go for the adoption.
Mhm.
It's fantastic. Um, Now, also, you were sharing with me about the leash program, the walks and things of that nature with the volunteers. Could you share a little bit about that?
We every dog gets a walk every day. Um, they take them out. We spend about 20 minutes with them. We have benches set around where they can sit down with the animals, get face to face with them, because dogs need to have a certain amount of time of actual human interaction and being able to see our faces. When you're just walking, you don't get that. So they're encouraged to sit down on the benches, and a lot of times, of course, the dogs will jump up in their laps. We've got several things, places that they can walk. We also have, in the summertime, we set little pools up so that the dogs can
Okay.
play in the swimming pools. And then we have a off leash area, which we have converted from an old canine area. We've used that for off leash, and the dogs can just run out there one at a time. Or if they come in twos, if there's a pair, we can take two out. But
Okay.
it's always just one person with their dogs. And then we've got an agility course that they can take the dogs through, uh, help work with the dogs, work their brains. They sit there for a long time with nothing to do, and they need something to stimulate their brains while they're out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Um, it's vital. Yep. And what do you think that we were talking a little bit about the director and that wonderful director that's really supportive and helpful. Do you think that's the real big spark to make all these things happen, or um, not that every it's not that it's not a combination, but the director I know is always the head, and the programs follow the director from top down. But if you could share a little bit about your director and what makes that director such a success for all the dogs to give them these different areas to rehabilitate it.
He is he's very into the dogs and stuff. I have pictures that we get, and he'll come out and pose with the dogs for us. He's a lot of fun, but he listens and is always striving to make the shelter better and make it as good as what we can be. He asks opinions of people. I mean, he's not like he wants our input and listens, and he's very willing to try things. Sometimes we have to wait a while to get things passed, but he does. He's just a really a wonderful person.
That's fantastic. Yeah, like I was saying, is that most organizations, companies, anything, the leader, when they show up every day, however they act is how your staff acts. And if you're there being supportive with the dogs, really setting that tone, you really set a fantastic example for your staff and volunteers.
He's out in the kennel walking around and um, greeting people. So we've done videos. He's done for newscasts. He's had things done there at the shelter where they've come
Okay,
in and done news things with him, and he's very hands-on with the dogs and all of the projects that we're working on.
that's fantastic. When you say the projects, can you share some of those with me? I know when we spoke a little bit earlier, you were talking about the adoption events, things of that nature. What type of other events do you guys do to promote and give the dogs the opportunity to be in front of more people to have the ability to be adopted?
We're getting ready right now for our Christmas event. Uh,
Okay.
Santa Paws will be there, and Santa Paws poses for the people to come in. They can bring their dogs from on the streets. They can, people out, the public can bring their dogs in and pose with Santa Paws. We also can, anybody that adopts a pet we take pictures of them with Santa Paws.
I love it.
So it's a great thing that we're doing, I think, with our Christmas programs. We do toy drives twice a year, uh, Christmas in July and at Christmas time. Because the dogs will, of course, run through the toys pretty quickly.
Sure.
But we get hundreds of toys donated every year. We have a lady, a volunteer who has been started the program 16 years ago, and she basically
Wow.
runs the toy drives, and she does all of our pictures for the pet finder and adopt a pet. But so we try to put ourselves out there a lot with the adoption events. The director will even sometimes show up at those too,
Oh, wow,
and
that's
then we
great.
get those. Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, when I was looking at your, I believe, either Instagram page or Facebook page, you had some really neat stuff about Halloween with the different pictures of some cats and dogs, and a couple other different holidays that really made me smile. They're very clever and well put together. So that's something that I applaud you for because if you can have events, it's not the same thing every single day. It's now we're doing Halloween stuff. Now we're doing Thanksgiving stuff. Now we're doing Christmas stuff. Now we're doing New Year stuff. So things sort of change up some. So it keeps it fresh and clean, where it makes it more exciting.
Yep, and I'm working on some new ideas for some other events. I work with one of the ACOs, one of the supervisors, and she's our events person. So we've got some ideas that we're cooking up for spring and later on this in the summertime.
That's fantastic. Something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I don't know the viability of it. However, it's something I want to figure out is doing a dog fashion show. So that way, they're dressed, they're there. Now, when you're doing the videos for your social media or things of that nature, here's someone coming dressed as, I don't know, uh, I don't know how they would dress Christopher Columbus, but that's the first name that came into my head. Um, but there's so many amazing, cute outfits out there, and I think that it's so important for people to be able to see the dogs smile, not happy, smile and tail wagging, and feel that warmth.
Absolutely. Yes. And that is one of the things that we're thinking about is a fashion show.
Uh, if
So
you do, you
hopefully
need
we
to let me know so I can see the video of it.
okay.
Yep, without a doubt. One of the things that I just want to switch angles a little bit, we talked about is that you have a volunteer that does a lot of videos of the dogs, especially when they're euthanized afterwards. Not the videos before, obviously. However, just about their story. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
He does a video highlighting some of the dogs that we've lost, which seems kind of morbid, maybe. I don't know, but it makes people stop and think. And she
Yeah.
usually includes like something about, you know, while you're out breeding dogs or buying dogs, these are some faces of the ones who lost their lives because we can't get them out adopted as fast as they're coming in.
Right.
And so she does these videos of them playing and being happy, and it's a tearjerker for those of us who know the dogs.
Yeah, I would imagine. How does that process work? Because that's something I've been always wondered about. Is it when they're there a certain amount of days? Is it based on I don't know, like how do they get to go from being in the shelter to being on the the euthanized list?
Our dogs, we say our dogs don't have an expiration date.
Okay.
So we don't say after 30 days, no, we don't do that. As long as we have space. That is the issue is when we run out of space, we have nowhere else to put them
Right.
and we can't turn dogs away.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
So
And,
that's when it gets,
no, go ahead.
pardon?
No, I said go ahead. I didn't want to talk over you.
That's okay. No, go ahead.
So, talk to me a little bit about a couple of, I would say, not necessarily challenges, but a couple of the toughest stories that you've experienced in your years doing dog rescue, and how that happens, and you're still able to wake up the next day and go fight more for the dogs.
For me, it's my philosophy is I know we've lost some dogs. I always find out who they are so I can think through it and kind of process it, and know that they're probably in a better place now. But I know that when I go to work the next day, there's going to be a whole bunch of new hopeful faces looking at me and wanting wanting to get out, and
Right.
other dogs that I have to concentrate on. I have to do it for the ones that are still there.
I gotcha. Makes perfect sense. It's just a matter of I think you said you have like 200 dogs and then 150 cats.
Probably right around there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you have 200 other sweet, sweet soul little angels that need that love. And you got to be prepared for it, regardless of what happens the day before, is what I'm hearing.
Right. And I won't say it never gets easier. It never
Right.
gets easy. Um, it's always a struggle, especially, well, we always have our favorite dogs.
Of
And when one
course.
of those one. It's incredibly difficult. But like I said, if I, if we don't go in there and do what we need to do, who will?
Yeah.
Who's gonna help them if not us?
Yeah. And where would you say that most of the dogs that come into your shelter come from? And I would imagine there's some that are turned over to you, some that are abandoned. But do some come from different shelters, or where do the majority of the dogs come from?
Not you, mostly strays and owner surrenders.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that whenever I see that on Facebook, it just doesn't register with me. I can't comprehend it. Um, I know I'm a intense dog lover, and some people might say I'm too much of a dog lover. And my thought is, you don't know what you're missing out on. But that's always something that was hard to understand. Um, but if you could share with us one of the biggest challenges with one of the dogs or that came in that was didn't turn out how you wanted it to.
That didn't turn out.
Yes.
Oh, there's quite a few.
Okay.
Um, and it's heartbreaking. I used to have a dog that was in a corner in an end kennel. And every day I would go up to her and she would jump up to meet me and I would put my hands on the bars and she'd put her paws on my hands and we'd have a
Mm,
little talk. Sometimes I just take her out for a walk for fun. And she was a big dog, um, not real pretty, just kind of a ordinary dog, and was overlooked for months and ended up on the euthanasia list. And we lost her, and it was crushing. There's always some that just really tear my heart out when they don't make it out. I wish they could all get out.
yeah. And talking on that, if there's somebody who does fostering, it opens up a space for another dog, obviously. And like we talked
Fostering
about, oh, go ahead, sorry.
fostering saves two dogs. Fostering
Yeah,
saves two
yep,
dogs. The one they
exactly.
foster and the one that opens a kennel for.
Yeah. And what would you say to the person who's sitting here listening right now saying, well, I work full time, I do this, I don't have any time to do it because I hear they're in the run for 23 hours and 40 minutes a day. How do you get them to understand? Like, even if you could do an hour or 2 hours a day where they were out and then it wasn't so loud and it was a calm environment, or like you were saying earlier, laying on the couch, something like that. How do you get them to understand they can actually do it? They just don't understand that and think they can.
I That is the biggest mystery to me, because they just don't listen. They don't care.
Yeah.
Um, but if you if you have a dog and you can take it for a short walk, or even a lot of times my dogs just run in the backyard and I sit out and watch them or play ball with them, throw balls for them. Um, they're much happier because once if you surrender them into the shelter, you aren't giving them anything better. In
Right.
fact, you're giving them something worse.
Right.
They'll be in a kennel for 23 and a half hours a day, get out for a 20-minute walk, and surely you can do better. They don't have a soft place to sleep. They've got a Kundra bed or a blanket on the floor. They just in a loud, noisy place. And I just don't understand why people think that they bring a dog in and they think it's gonna get adopted, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. I, I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah. I'm on the same page with you. I could see if someone gets sick and they can't take care of the dog anymore, or, there's certain situations where they actually can't do it physically or, or other terms, and haven't been able to find someone to take the dog. But yeah, in general, I'm on the same page as you. I don't understand it either. Let's flip it to the positive so we can both smile.
Oh,
Tell
yes,
me
yes.
a couple of your favorite stories with a couple of dogs to really show that sunshine that can come in this world.
Okay, I'm going to tell you first about Tauper.
Okay.
Tauper was a great big kitty that was in our shelter, and he was just it, nothing daunted his spirit. I mean, he was there for months,
Right.
and he was such a fun dog because they would take him out and walk him, and you could hear he had a squeaky toy with him when we'd go out every time, and you could hear the squeak, squeak, squeak all over
While he was
the
walking.
pasture, and he would squeak it, and then he would drop it, and then he would roll over on his back for you to rub his belly. And then as soon as you stopped, he'd jump up, he'd grab his toy and squeak, squeak, squeak on around and everybody knew when Papa was out there. And he was just like a shelter. He was like a volunteer favorite dog.
Right.
Everybody loved him. And sadly, he got on the euthanasia list. And Bruna did some videos for him that were very heartfelt, very, very touching. And a lady in Florida in Orlando saw one of his videos and she was interested in adopting him. And the thing, we couldn't, she'd have to come up here to adopt from the shelter. So, I mean,
Okay.
we pulled all kinds of little strings. I got a rescue to take him for a couple days till I could get, I had a volunteer who transports,
Okay.
and the rescue pulled him and kept him at their facility for a couple days. And then the volunteer transport him to Valdosta, where he met his new home, his new
Okay.
family, and then took him on to Orlando. And we follow him on Facebook because she's always
Okay.
posting things about him, and it's a lot of fun. And he's eh, just to see him living his best life and thinking
Yeah.
that he was on the youth list means everything, and that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Um, we had a gorgeous Doberman come in not too long ago, and he was uh, heartworm positive, and so he wasn't doing real good. Shelters. Some dogs just don't do well, and he wasn't
Sure.
doing well in the shelter environment. And asked somebody about a Doberman rescue, and they gave me a contact. So we reached out to them, and they were like on board wanting him. And so we talked about it, and we were trying to get it all put together because he was supposed to be euthanized that night. And I went in and got him out of his run, and he had gotten so weak he fell off his bed.
Oh,
And
wow.
got him, took him out. They the rescue said they'd take him sight unseen. I mean, they would take him, and we got him up, did all the things that we do, the deworming and the rabies, all the stuff that he needed before he could leave. And they brought him up in my office, and he just collapsed on the floor. We covered him up with a blanket and kept him comfortable while they finished his paperwork, and the driver came. And then they came and they took him, and when they got him to the hospital where they where we were supposed to send him because they wanted to do an exam on him, see how bad the heartworms and all were, he collapsed and actually flatlined,
Oh,
and they brought
wow.
him back twice. And eventually they took him to one of our specialty veterinarians in the area. They kept him for, I think, 3 or 4 days, got him through the woods there, so to speak,
Okay.
and put him into a foster home. And I mean, this was all just done like in one day, and it was. I kept telling the lady at the rescue, I'm so sorry, I didn't know he was that sick, and she's like, it was meant to be. It was meant for us to get him and make him well.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm feeling bad because they took this dog and cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're all in for him. And he's doing good. He's gonna make it. He's
Awesome.
getting healthier, gaining weight, and he's with a foster who incidentally just came and adopted a blind dog from me.
Okay.
So the connections that you make are priceless. I mean, we also had a dog that came in. He'd been at our shelter a couple times, he his name was Bentley,
Okay.
and he had a came in last time. People lost him, came and reclaimed him. He got out again, got hit by a car, had a broken pelvis. It was in pretty bad shape, and uh, the family couldn't afford his medical bills, and so they left him with us. So we set up a fundraiser. Uh, one of my volunteers set one up, not through the shelter or anything like that, but it was outside the shelter. They set up a GoFundMe account and were
Okay.
able to raise about $3,000 or $4,000 towards his medical bills. And a rescue took him. And I mean, we had a big party. We pushed him out in a cart, loaded him in my transport car, and took him to the hospital. And he's been adopted and is doing wonderful up there now.
That's
So
fantastic.
that's why we do what we do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what keeps us going.
Yeah. And those are the pieces that I would imagine push your heart back together after the challenging situations. You might not be able to
Yep.
help every single dog, but there's a lot that you can.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What other things do you do at the shelter do you think that make it where the dogs have that opportunity to be even more successful?
I just think it's a lot of it is the volunteers, the time that they spend with them, working with them makes them adoptable. If they can teach them to do a couple tricks, and somebody comes to meet them, and I can walk in there and say, sit, down, give paw, and they do all those things. I mean, people are like, oh, I had one lady told me, she says, my husband said if the dog could at least do something on command that we would adopt it. And I'm like, okay,
You know?
you know, so I think that makes them much more adoptable. I work with a lot of the dogs that have skin issues too.
Okay.
They come in with no fur, and I do medicated baths,
Is
and
that
I have managed.
primarily from mange or is it other things as well?
It's mange or demodox.
Okay.
The dogs are they just have no fur, and after a number of baths, they look great. And then I really push them because I put my heart and soul into making them look good again.
Yep.
And in fact, one of the dogs recently that came in, I was gonna bring him home and foster him here, but he had a big sore on his neck and it wouldn't stop bleeding. So the
Oh,
vet
wow.
removed that, and by then he was starting to look better. And it
Okay.
wasn't too long. Somebody came to meet a different dog, and I said, "Can I do a meet and greet with Shiloh?" And they said, "Sure." So we went and got him, and he came out, did great, did so good. She ended up adopting Shiloh.
Okay.
So he comes in now and does meet and greets for us for some rescues.
That's
And we have
fantastic.
we have some rescue partners who, when it's crunch time, we'll call them up, and a lot of will come. One came and took 5 dogs one night, and we didn't even have to euthanize it all that weekend, which was a huge success.
Yeah, I would say so, without a doubt. And I wanted to get your perspective on a couple of things as well. Um, One of the things at Paws Saving Paws that I'm looking to do model wise is some of the things that you're doing now, a couple other things as well. Um, what difference do you think it would make in the adoptability rate if the dogs had 3 to 4 hours a day of play outside of the run?
It would be huge. It would be a night and day difference. They would be much more adoptable. We'd know a lot more about them. Um, they'd have opportunity to play with other dogs, hopefully, and those kinds of things. People want dogs that are dog friendly and cat friendly, which there's no way to know if they're going to be cat friendly. But
Yeah, that's true.
and it's just anything that they can do, spend more time with people. They'll be better behaved. It would be a lot of difference. It would be make a big difference for them.
Gotcha. And you talked about already a little bit about the training that you guys do and what a difference that makes. So training is another piece of the model. where, you know, it'd be a certified trainer that does the regular training for uh, customers' dogs that would also do it for the rescue dogs as well. So that's something based on what you shared earlier is another vital piece that can make a big difference.
Hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, and the other thing that I'm thinking too is if they had the ability to be groomed, not just a bath, but groomed, really done up nicely. I know my Soleil, when she comes out of being grooming, she has that little extra pep in her step. Like, you know, she just that confidence, sort of like, you know, when we get out of the shower, you feel great. How do you think that would impact it?
I think it would make a big difference. Now, while the dogs are on the stray holds in our shelter, we really can't do anything with them. But if they go up for adoption and they become our property, and we can bathe them, we could. I have a grooming room there.
Okay,
Um,
great.
sometimes sometimes we'll take things in for dogs that are matted real bad. I did a poodle last summer that was could hardly walk because she couldn't even bend her legs.
Oh,
And when I
wow.
would shave a little bit and I just pull the back and shave and pull the fur back, I got to down to one of her feet and I'm looking at there's something looks like metal in there. And so I kept working at it and working at it. And it was a fish hook was
Oh, wow.
buried in the dog's fur. So we do a couple of the animal control people, the officers and some of the animal care specialists. I'll take my grooming tools in if I need to, and I do have a volunteer now who has volunteered to spend a couple days there and volunteering and uh, giving baths and grooming dogs.
It's fantastic.
So if they come to me, if a volunteer comes to me and says this dog's just really dirty, can we give him a bath? I'm like, sure, and we do.
You know, no, that makes sense. And the other piece that I think is a little bit different than the general model, the ability to get the dogs in front of people is always a challenge. You do the adoption events, the themed events, like we are talking about, potentially a fashion show. So really getting the rescue dogs in front of people where they can see them to have the opportunity to even think about fostering or adopting. So in the model that I'm working with, it will be half indoor dog park, boarding, grooming, training, and then it'll be separated from the rescue portion of it, but there'll be a huge window where the people that are coming in, the customers, can see the rescue dogs playing and having fun and really socializing and things of that nature. When you bring the customers or the potential adoptee to the dogs in that type of fashion, what do you think that would do for the adoption rate on days to being adopted?
Well, it would definitely skyrocket. Just them being able to see the dogs playing and having fun versus walking down and just seeing them in their kennels would make a huge difference.
Gotcha. Yep. And the
And
other, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
they would see them more as a pet or something that they could play with rather than this poor dog laying on his cot just kind of looking sad.
Or barking because first person they've seen in a long time. Yeah, without a doubt.
Mhm.
And, you know, and I think that there's many people who they don't have any thought in their mind about rescuing a dog, but if they're there at the dog park or getting groomed and they see those dogs, now it's a possibility, you know, and that makes a big change. The other piece that is really, really important to me, and I really want to get your feedback on it to see if your thoughts on it, is having a 6 week training program, an hour a day for an hour per week for 6 weeks, where the parents that adopted and the dog that was adopted for free get training together.
That would be amazing because I think that's a big barrier is the cost of training. It's high.
Yeah,
I know $50, $100 for an hour training is out of reach for most people.
yeah.
And I think that that would be something that, the people could work through. They would learn how to treat with teach the dog, would save the retention rate. The dogs wouldn't be coming back to us
Yes.
because they're behaved, and that would
Yep.
be huge.
Yeah. And my whole entire goal when I take a step back and look at it is twofold: decrease the days to adoption and increase the retention rate. You do those two things now in the same space that you could hold, say, 40 dogs. In essence, you're actually holding 60 dogs because the turnover is so much quicker and you're not getting them back so fast. So with the same space, you could help so many more dogs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, and the other piece to it is that having the indoor dog park and the other pieces will have additional funding for the rescue, which would allow those rehabilitation programs to be part of it. And that was what really drove me is I wanted to have some type of model where you could do those things and not have to rely just on grants and donations, but having grants, donations, and additional revenue coming in. So, what would you say? We're coming up on Christmas, the holidays. Do you see an uptick? But I think you might have said earlier you see an uptick in returns, but do you see an uptick in adoptions around the holidays because of the holidays?
Yes, I do. We can get a lot more dogs adopted over the holidays, but once the reality of having a dog, some people decide it's not for them and they bring them back. But
Yeah.
we do we do get a lot adopted, and we do get a lot that stay. But
Okay.
there's always some that people just, this isn't this isn't the lassie that I remember seeing on TV as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. They actually have to do work and they actually have to train and they actually have to walk them and they actually have to do things. And if they don't do those things and the dog does something wrong, what's wrong with the dog? Well, it's probably really what's wrong with the person who has the dog. The dog follows the owner or parents' direction. You know,
Yeah.
what else do you think is important for people in Marietta, Georgia, to know about your rescue facility that, as it's December 10th now, to truly be able to take in that will make a huge difference?
We're gonna try a program. I mean, we tried it at Thanksgiving, and I think we're gonna possibly do it again. Where we had a grateful getaway,
Okay.
and a few of our dogs went out for a weekend with a family. That was a very good program, and I'm hoping that we will continue it. I don't know whether we'll do it this year at Christmas or not. Some of the volunteers are kind of hoping that we will, but we'll
Yeah.
see when we get there. Um, I, I don't know. One of the things that I would like to do is to put together some packets for people, a little bit about the training, a little bit about potty training, a little bit, about resource guarding and dogs, things like that, that would make people understand why the dogs are doing what they're doing and that they need time to decompress from being in a noisy shelter. The 333, I'm sure you've heard of that.
Sure.
333 rule: 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months before the dog's comfortable. Those kinds of things. I'm hoping to be able to start putting some things together for that as well, to give out to people when they adopt, and that
Gotcha.
might help them to stay there longer too.
Yeah. There's something that always in my mind for a long time that I never understood. A human baby, and I don't have children, so I don't know if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, but they go in a diaper till that amount of years. So it takes a human 3, 4, 5 years to be able to use the restroom in the right spot. But you get a puppy and you want it in 1 or 2 days to be able to be housebroken. It's just that's just something that I never really resonated with me. Like, why you'd have that expectation when humans don't even do it.
Yeah, and that was kind of an example that I just used recently with my some of my volunteers, and I think I put a post on Facebook about it, where if you marry a person who has kids and you have kids and you all become a family, do the kids all mesh? And do you think you're going to instantly have the Brady Bunch?
Right.
It's the same thing with dogs. They take time. They're going to have to learn their new siblings, their new routines, where they need to go to the bathroom, where they sleep at night, those kinds of things. And if they've been in a shelter like ours, it's noisy, and they're going to close down for a few days and just pretty much just decompress,
Sure.
and to be allowed that time to do that. And when people try to put the dogs together too soon, usually our dogs come back.
Right. That makes sense. Because a dog that was just brought into the house needs more time to be introduced.
Mhm.
Makes perfect sense. When I got Soleil, it's actually interesting. So I was there with my mother and my father, and it was Soleil and her two brothers in the little area. And Soleil just sat there like a little angel. The two other boys were playing, having fun, doing that. And my mom's like, "Look at that! Look at that dog. She's just sitting there. She's like a little angel." Then she went and took a step into the poop by accident. So my mom said, well, let's see one of the other dogs. So the other dog, her brother was cute, loving, and everything like that. Then we went back over there, and my mom said, could you clean the dog's foot? So they cleaned the dog really quickly. And then as soon as she came into the little area where you meet with the dogs, it was done, and it's changed my life dramatically in such a wonderful way. I've had dogs my whole life, and that's really other than parents, but the unconditional love you truly get is remarkable,
There's
you
nothing
know?
like it.
Yeah. And the feeling when you're bringing home a dog that potentially is on euthanasia list for 2 days from now and saving that dog, and then the dog assimilates into the family, that feeling is amazing. So, in closing, what would be your message to somebody that thinks they don't have enough time, or they can't foster, or you can't adopt, or whatever the situation might be? And I'm meaning mostly foster, because adopting is a little bit different. You're having them forever. Whereas foster, you're helping them for 3, 4, maybe 2 weeks, days, weeks, to make sure that they have a chance to be adopted, so they're not their lives are not taken. Like, what would you say to them to try to sort of shake them a little bit and say, listen, you know, to make that mindset shift?
I would just tell them, that rescue dogs know when they've been rescued, and they will give you the most unconditional love ever. They know, they just seem to know
Yeah.
when someone has rescued them, when somebody has saved them at the last minute. Um, we took a dog out today that has been there for a while and is going into fostering, and the dog just knew it. She just knew she was, as soon as we were out the front door, we were taking videos, because we like to do freedom walk videos
Oh,
showing
I
the
love
dogs
that.
leaving the facility. And this dog was just beyond excited. She knew she was saved. And I just feel like if people would take the chance, it's like fostering is not a lifetime
Right.
commitment. Try it. Yeah, just try it, and you may foster fail, like a lot of us do. Um, you may be able to pass them on and get them adopted, but it's you save a life,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
my thought too is,
it's a
even if it's
feeling.
for a weekend, you get the dog out of the shelter for the weekend, and maybe they can reset and, like you were saying, decompress a little bit just to have a break.
And, and then we learn so much more about them.
Mhm.
They can come back after they've been in somebody's house for the weekend and they can say, oh, well, this dog, seemed to understand, where when we took it out to go potty, that it was supposed to go outside, or this dog played really nice with our dog, things like that. And then we can have testimonials of the dogs having spent some time outside the outside the shelter within a family setting,
Yeah,
and
and I had
fostering
never
does
thought
that.
about that. That's a great, great point. Yeah.
So it's
Well, I believe
yeah.
that Julie was the person who got us in contact, and
Mhm.
I'm very thankful to her. I've been real, real excited all day to get to talk to you today and really just learn more about the shelter, more about what you do, the programs, hear your stories. And for me, it's been fantastic. Before we close, is there anything else you'd like to share for the video or anything in general? I just wanted to give you that opportunity.
Just my favorite saying um, is that saving one dog won't change the world, but for that one dog, its world will be changed forever. And if you can help us, if you can foster, if you if you can't adopt, foster. If you can't foster, volunteer. If you can't
Right.
volunteer, um, donate or share our videos and things like that. Help us get the dogs seen.
Yeah, and I guess when you, as you just said that, I didn't even think about that. Whenever I see something online, I'll share it. But that little bit of taking 4 to 6 seconds to hit the share button could be the difference in a dog being alive or not.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Well, Susan, oh, go ahead.
So that's very true. I've
Yeah.
seen it happen.
Yeah, not surprising. I just want to say, Susan, thank you again so much for your time today. I know how swamped you are and how busy you are to take the time out today to talk with me. And everything you shared is very inspirational and gives me a lot of hope of being able to save as many dog lives as possible and foster and rescue. And just like Julie said, you're doing an amazing job. You should have been highlighted like you are today. And I would like to just say thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. And the dog that I talked about, Tauper, is
Yeah.
Julie's dog.
Oh, really?
It is.
No, no, no. Because she talked all about it in the email she sent me about the dog. I don't know if the name was in there or not, because I had a good amount of messages. But she that was this. Okay, I'm gonna go reread that email because now that I know it's Topper, the dog that you shared with me, it'll resonate much more because I'll be able to have more input and data to analyze it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool dog. Very cool
Yeah.
dog.
Okay, so if you guys do a fashion show, you need to make sure you remember to let me know so I can either watch it on Zoom if you guys are filming it, or afterwards watch it if you're just filming it,
Okay,
because
I
that
will
would
do
be
that.
exciting for me.
Okay, well, we talked about it last year, didn't get it done, so maybe we'll get it done this year.
Yep. Well, whenever the time
So
is right, it'll happen.
thank you for the opportunity to talk about our animals and the shelter. I'm really proud to be an employee there, and it, it's a great place. It really is, and despite the times it's not so good, but um, it's a good shelter, very forward thinking and very very hands on.
Yeah, just from what we talked about today, what you shared, uh, night and day versus a good amount of the places that I've spoken to. Not saying anything bad about anyone, but if you have 30 volunteers versus 160, the ability to do is significantly different.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. All right. I'm not going to hold you anymore because I know you've been doing your stuff all day long and were so kind to meet with me tonight. But again, I just want to say thank you one more time. And it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you as well. I appreciate it, and
Uh,
have a great day.
you have a great holiday.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.